Hey guys, Philos here. This video is going to be on a very basic Unhallowed Essence build using the fire damage and the multi-shot. This would be what I would consider a standard cookie cutter entry level build. The itemization is not rare. Most of the loot is pretty easy to acquire, so rare items needed to make this build work are basically nothing. You just need the 6-piece Unhallowed and a good two-handed weapon. That's pretty much it. You need the focus and restraint combination, the Bastion of Will ring set here. I mean, witching hour, it's like standard itemization, standard loot, nothing really rare, like not Crider shot, you don't need a well-rolled meticulous or anything like that. Quiver right now is just a placeholder. The damage that you do, your modifier, is actually based on the amount of damage, the amount of discipline that you currently have. So if you're out of discipline, you have no discipline, then you're not going to hit near as hard as if you would have full discipline. So it's important to get all the discipline you can and to maintain full discipline as you're trying to do damage. And the only items you can get discipline on are going to be your weapon, your cloak, chest piece, demon hunter chest, and then your quiver. Other options are like some rings, specifically legacy SOJs, are decent, comparable damage potential, but in terms of like seasonal, that's not going to be an option. So really the places to get the discipline are just, there's three. You can get 12 discipline on each for an additional 36 discipline, right? And you start with 30, so that puts you at 66, and then you have preparation with invigoration, which we'll talk about the spec in a minute, gives you 15 additional discipline. So that's going to take you, from 66 up to, 81, and that's going to be 81 is going to be considered like perfect discipline rolls with the focus and restraint. So yeah, I have 79 discipline. That's giving me a certain amount of damage. If I had a couple extra points of discipline, it would be slightly more damage. So missing just one discipline on my weapon and then one on the quiver. Anyways, let's just jump right into the spec. We got Multishot Arsenal, standard best multi-shot that you have, highest damage potential multi-shot rune. So the idea is to focus on multi-shot Arsenal and the synergy with ballistics. So you'll notice I have ballistics on my Hellfire amulet. If you don't have a Hellfire, you just switch steady aim to ballistics. Steady aim's not that great of a passive, but it is good. So if you can get 5, you would take steady aim. If not, you would drop steady aim for ballistics. Ballistics is definitely better than steady aim. Anyways, the generator, standard here, 7 hatred per attack, just to give you that hatred, as well as proccing the focus and restraint. So you have to have a generator. Even with high resource reduction, you need the generator to be able to trigger that and maintain resources. You have Vengeance with Seed. This is an optional ability, I would say. At the higher levels, you could switch out for Mortal Enemy. It's actually really good. Or really any of the Mark for Deaths is going to be good. As you get into the higher levels, the value of Seed is going to diminish. Unless you have high cooldown reduction, which isn't really important. So that's kind of like a swing slot depending on where you're at. I use this mostly for speed farming. Seed is really nice. And then there's Tumble, obviously for the mobility. Preparation, Invigoration. As I mentioned earlier, your damage is based on your discipline. So you want to just use this for that 15 bonus discipline. It's like 225% damage bonus just from having this invigoration, the 15 bonus discipline. Here we have the Wolf Companion. This is also potentially a swing ability. Like the build is pretty just preliminary and basic on cooldown. It's really good. Passives, pretty straightforward. Same passives that we've been using. The only difference is dropping custom engineering for ambush. So obviously you're not using sentries, you don't need custom engineering, makes room for one more passive. The next best is either ambush or you can take archery. Again, depending on the level. As you get to the higher levels, the value of ambush is going to diminish and you might prefer archery. But generally ambush is really good even at the higher levels. However, it could go either way. Awareness for this Chi Death, standard here. Call of the Week, again, damage modifier, one of the best that the Demon Hunter has. and then steady aim, more damage, and ballistic. So lots of damage passives for the Demon Hunter. Pretty much just slap all those on there, and then the awareness. Now I just want to mention a couple things as you're progressing into the higher level greater rifts, and even for this setup, like really, as I mentioned, the swing slots here, the Vengeance or the Seed or the Wolf, you should switch one of these to Polar Station to take advantage of your Call of the Week and your Bane of the Trap to increase the uptime on that. Like you can get your Templar to proc the slow, so like there is some uptime on the Call of the Week and the Bane of the Trap from the Templar, but if you really want to increase the uptime on that, you're going to want to use the Polar Station simply to trigger those slows and to help you kite. It's nice to have the area slow, that way you can pull the monsters through it, and kind of slow them down, and give you time to help kite. As I mentioned, this is kind of like a average level intermediate build, so it's not really tuned for the high end, but it's definitely capable of performing very well, pushing 50 with very minimal gear. So yeah, if you don't find a good crider, then you can end up running something like this. Straightforward. And now, as I mentioned, the itemization is not rare. The weapon, you don't need a crider shot. All you need is just a generic two-handed weapon. You would really like it to have discipline. It's quite important that two-handed crossbows and bows can roll with discipline now. And again, your damage is based on your discipline, so you're going to want to take advantage of every point of discipline that you can get. So make sure you have discipline there. And resource reduction is going to be the one stat that you would want out of anything. After you have your crit chance and your crit damage and your elemental damage, you know, all of that, resource reduction for this build is going to be good. So you can look at my rolls. It's not quite properly itemized. You know, I could lose some vitality and pick up some resource reduction. It's very early. I've only had like, you know, 1 day of farming, so it's not perfectly rolled here. A lot of the rolls are really sketchy, but this is the first set that I have. Again, just to kind of give a reference what you're looking for. Helmet, standard rolls, dex, crit, multi-shot, socket. The chest piece, again, the discipline is really important. Other than that, damage modifiers there's no damage you can get, so just good dexterity roll is all that really matters. Standard witching hour, crit damage is most important here. Pants, standard rolls, dex fit, sockets. The boots, you want to make sure you get your multi-shot damage. Other than that, it's standard. Quiver, this is where I would like a holy point shot. So this quiver for non-season, like on seasonal, when season 3 starts, there's the Dead Man's Legacy. And, you know, you can use the Dead Man's Legacy with this setup, and that would probably be best in slot. How on non-season, we don't have the option of the Dead Man's Legacy, so the next bet is the holy point shot. You're able to get your elemental damage modifier, your skill modifier, in this case it would be multi-shot, and your crit chance, attack speed, dexterity, discipline. So you get everything that you could possibly want on the quiver. So that's really good for non-season, kind of like a placeholder. I don't actually have one. It's not even a rare piece, but I haven't really saved them, haven't been farming them, so I don't actually have one. I'm just using the bombardiers as a placeholder. And as I mentioned, we have the focus and restraint, the 2-piece ring bonus. You would want your dual crit. The most important modifiers on your rings are going to be crit chance, crit damage. After that, you can go with this set. I would recommend resource reduction. Over here, I have attack speed. That's for a slightly different build, but you know, these are the best that I have right now, so I'm just kind of working with what we got. Anyways, crit chance, crit damage, the best modifiers, basically across the board. Wherever you can get them, you want to get them. Your Reaper Wraps, again, just standard itemization here for the Demon Hunter with your fire damage, crit chance, most important there. The health glow bonus is also pretty important. The difference between 25% and 30% is pretty significant. It adds up over time, and you can feel the difference. So you'd like a higher roll on that. And then Hellfire Amulet. Obviously, these are pretty rare, but you know, if you have the time, it's a good investment to get a Hellfire. Pretty much every Demon Hunter build ever is going to be able to take advantage of that 5th passive. There isn't a single build that you don't want to have 5 passives. So there's just too many good damage passives for the Demon Hunter to pass up. So anyways, that's pretty much it on the loot and the spec. Legendary gems. The standard is going to be the Zay's Stone of Vengeance. This one is just good because of the way the damage is calculated and the fact that you're ranged, you're able to take advantage of it. Also, the stun is pretty clutch. There's been some times where that 20% chance to stun has actually saved me, but primarily for the damage. Again, here, Bane of the Trapped, standard gems for damage. On the lower difficulty, you can switch this out. I usually switch Bane of the Trapped for Bane of the Powerful, and then I would run Taeguk. So usually I would not run Bane of the Powerful, I would run Taeguk, and then the Bane of the Trap, depending on the difficulty, would be the one that you would switch. But Taeguk you would actually run the whole time regardless. The gems are the same as last patch. If you can take advantage of the Taeguk, go for it. If not, Bane of the Powerful is good. You got Zay's Stone of Vengeance and Bane of the Trap. Standard gems, nothing really changed on that. And Paragon, pretty standard stuff. I was doing some tanky stuff, so this is not right, but for this setup, for greater rifting, I would just standard. I would take my hatred. You don't have the ferrets for your movement speed, so you got to get all your movement speed here now, unless you have some on your gear, and then it would just be dexterity from there. And yeah, for everything here is just standard. Crit modifiers first, and then others. All res first, and then the others. And then resource reduction first, and then the others. Standard paragon points. I have videos on that. Nothing's changed on the gems and the paragon, so that's going to do it. Standard basic entry fire multi-shot unhallowed set. This would be some sort of variation of this. Also for T6, obviously you just drop steady aim for tactical advantage. And you can also, if you're on softcore, you can drop awareness for Blood Vengeance, for example, or even Call of the Weak for Blood Vengeance. I would probably run something like this on T6. Again, switching back to Seethe for the Hatred. This would be like the T6 variation of that build. So yeah. Again, it's early, subject to change. This is just kind of like a rough draft to give you guys a reference of what you want, important things to keep in mind when you're gearing, and that kind of stuff. So I will be making more, less basic guides in the future with, you know, focusing around more rare loot and things like that. But this is the first one I wanted to make. Very simple, very basic, entry level. So I hope that helps. And yeah, just use this as a reference. Don't, you know, you don't have to copy exactly what I have. There's definitely lots of room for variety. So, just real quickly, the important things are your multi-shot modifiers, your resource reduction, and your maximum discipline. So that's what it looks like. Just kind of like a entry starter build with the Unhallowed set. Again, the focus here is not rare loot, so now I'm just going to do a quick run. Hopefully we can show how the set functions here in a 44. Yeah. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.